This channel and the GopStop are not responsible for any modifications you do to your own vehicle.
Hey YouTubers, welcome back to the channel. This is video 2 in the installing of my 2013 Nissan Maxima Sport Edition Grom Infotainment Center upgrade. Alright, here in step 1, I'm going to remove the bezel and interior components. I highly recommend using plastic tools that are not sharp. I see people doing stuff and removing interior components with flathead screwdrivers, and they get upset when they scratch or break something. Whenever we're talking about interior parts, we're working with tiny clips, we're working with plastic, we're working with release points. You don't want to put too much pressure somewhere you're not supposed to. With something like a screwdriver that does not bend or break. What will break is going to be the plastic clip or your plastic bezel. So I highly recommend investing $5 or $10 or ever how much they are, $8 or something, in a set of plastic pry tools. That way you don't end up messing around and breaking something that you need to hold your dash together. I'll throw a link to the set that I'm using here from Amazon down in the description where you can order them from Amazon. Now, back to the install. As you can see here, I worked the pry tool in between the top section of the dash surrounding the touch screen, where it meets the dash, while doing this, gently pulling it straight out, slightly giving it a little wiggle, applying a steady pull but not a yank or a twist. That way you will definitely be sure not to break clips or even the plastic bezel just by pulling it straight out with a constant pressure. Once you get it pulled out where you have access to the wiring harness clips in the back, some of them are going to be a little bit more difficult to get to than others. The clips on the back are just a general wiring harness clip. They have a plastic button on them or clip release, and if you depress the clip release and then pull, the wires will come out. If you do not press the button, it makes it very difficult to come out. They are designed not to come out unless you press the release clip. So as you can see here, I'm using the plastic pry tool, the corner of it, the edge of it, to press the release, and the way that some of the clips are shaped, I can even use it to press and pry. Those came out really easily. Some of the other ones are in a little awkward position to get to around the vents, so you'll just have to maneuver your way to get to them. One thing that I would note and recommend that I did not do here is adjust your seat. You can see that I'm doing that here as my knees are moving closer to the dash. Adjust your seat so that you can sit closer to the dash in a more upright position without fighting gravity and sliding back in these deep bucket seats. So all of these wires that we are removing from the top part of the bezel here include your infotainment control knob and control buttons, the emergency flasher, the passenger airbag light, all that good stuff. So whenever you are removing these wires from the back, you want to be sure to be careful and depress the button while you're pulling these out. Don't just start yanking cables. These do have an important function when it comes to the operating of your vehicle in a safe fashion, so be careful while you're removing these wires and plugs not to yank them out or damage them. As you can see, I do have the cables holding it, so they are strong. the cables are the only thing holding the bezel, other than me casually moving it out of the way so that I can get better access to it. But like I said, you don't want to be yanking or snatching on anything when it comes to doing any installs. All of this stuff was machined to fit together. So if it's not fitting together and it's not a snap or clip that's holding it from simply popping out, then it's probably not lined up correctly. With the touchscreen bezel completely removed, I put it in the back seat somewhere safe. I want to show you some screws that we're going to take out. There's one at the top and two at the bottom of the touchscreen, and there's two screws for the stereo that are up top. There'll be two exposed later that are underneath this bottom part of the bezel. So we have to take off the bezel first to get to those two screws. There are two screws in the top of the bezel for the bottom part of the bezel here that we're working on, and the rest of the bezel is held in with clips. So you take out the top two screws, and then you're going to gently pull, maybe slightly wiggle, and we're going to take the pry tool and we're going to pry this insert that surrounds the stereo. So adjusted the camera angle so you can see a little bit better. You're just going to push your pry tool between there, pop it out. It pops out pretty easily. And so something you may notice here is I have a blue tipped cable that was just hanging there. So as I pulled that out, you will not have that cable hanging there. This is the second or third time, actually no, I'm sorry, this is the third or fourth time that I've taken my dash apart. Grom sent me the wrong cable twice. So I left this cable here so that way I could have quicker access to it without completely taking apart my whole dash, rerouting cables when the correct cable came in. So as you can see here, I fiddle around and eventually figure out that they sent me the wrong cable. Bang. Still confused. I keep trying. Eventually I smarten up and realize that this cable looks almost identical. The pin that is in the top of the cable coming out of my car is slightly off from the cable adapter that they sent me. So what this is that I'm connecting here is the USB that is in my glove box. So that is the data cable that runs from the glove box to the car stereo. That cable will not be used for this Grom box unless you connect it in as a input into your Grom box. So in a normal install, you would not use this. I didn't want to give up my factory USB input that I had in my glove box. This car only has one USB input, so I'm going to use that as a input 1 on my Grom box. So next we're going to take out all of the screws for the stereo. 2 up top that you saw earlier, and then there's 2 down at the bottom of the stereo. These are just normal Phillips head screws. So that cable that you saw me also pull through is the cable that is the USB cable that is running, that will be running from the dash over to the Grom box. as I will have my Grom box located in the glove box, which I will show you that here shortly. So once you have all of the screws removed, I would recommend covering your gear shift, especially if you have leather. I don't know if you can see right on the very top, I actually slightly nicked the top of my leather the first time I took this out. So I highly recommend you get something and you cover your gear shift knob, so that way, as I said earlier, you're not scratching or breaking things. So the last thing you want to do is perform an upgrade on your vehicle and mess something else up on your vehicle at the same time. So now that we have this out, we are going to unplug all of the wires from the back of the stereo and CD changer here, as we will be inserting the Grom audio harnesses that will go over to the box. So in this next step, we are going to refer over to the Grom audio installation wiring harness guide that has the wiring diagram and wiring schematics to connect the wiring harnesses to the back of the unit, as well as to your factory wiring harness. So this is pretty straightforward. There's only one cable that can go into a place that it doesn't belong, and that is the blue cable. All the other cables will be used, but the blue cable you will not be using unless you also purchased the connection cable. Then you're just going to connect the two cables, or the one or two cables to the back of the touchscreen there. Plug that wiring harness in. Then we're going to move over to installing the box. So you can mount the box anywhere. I chose to mount it in my glove box. I used Velcro and Gorilla Glue tape, so that way it sticks really good to the velvet interior there. It's not going to bounce around, it's not going to move anywhere. Works out really nice there. I cut a couple small holes in the back of the glove box. To do that, I had to take the glove box out. There are 6 screws. There's 3 right here on top, and then there's also 3 down below. Try to show them to you. So once you take those out, you will need to make sure to disconnect your trunk clip properly. I did not. I ended up having to order one from eBay. So as I said before, don't yank. Everything is machine designed to fit together. So as I said before, if you're having to yank hard, you're not doing something right. So learn from my mistakes. Don't go yanking on stuff, or you'll have to end up on eBay buying something. If you decide to go the glove box route and put it in the glove box and take your glove box out to drill a hole and run your cables, your trunk button is very important, because you cannot open your trunk if you break that button. There is no way to unlock or open your trunk if that or if that button is broken. Your trunk switch will be set to off, so you will not be able to, even if you press the trunk button, it will not let your trunk open. There is no keyhole to open your trunk. The only way you can get to your trunk is to somehow go through the back seat, and the seats do not go down. So there's that. Now, moving on, we are going to reassemble things back in reverse order that we just took everything else apart. So we're going to start by putting the stereo back in, put our 4 screws in. Then we're going to connect our bezel up, put our bezel in. This was the second cable that Grom sent me. That did not work. Truth be told, this was the third time I ended up having to take it apart again when they did send me the correct cable. Truth be told, if they had have sent me the correct cable the first time, I would not have ended up filming this to show you guys. It's not that hard. I wanted to make this video to show you guys it's not that hard to add this feature to your car. They created a pretty cool product to be able to add modern features to an older vehicle, especially when you like your vehicle. I don't plan on getting rid of this vehicle. I actually really like this vehicle. It's got a really nice motor in it. Performs well on the road. Wanted something a little bit more modern because I do travel a lot with this vehicle. So with the ability to add Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, I think that's a pretty cool feature to be able to add into a older car. Makes it a little more comfortable to ride in. Now, so as before, I'm just going to tuck this back in. Can't really do anything with it until the correct cable was sent. And like I said, they eventually did. After going back and forth with Grom support, they eventually did send me the cable. And the cable worked out fine. But for now, we're just going to tuck it in place. As I said before, everything should snap right in. It was all machined to fit together perfectly. Put our 2 screws back in the top. Now we're going to pull all of our wires out, make sure that none of them have fallen. Pull them out where they're easily accessible. Now we're going to connect up our top portion of our dash bezel. Connect the flashers up. Be sure to connect your infotainment knob. So the cool thing about the Grom Audio unit here is, I wanted to point something out. If you notice, at first when I put it there, it was not going in easily. Pulled it out, repositioned, and it snapped right in. As I said, if you're having to bang on things and yank and jerk and all that stuff, you're not doing something right. But as I was saying, the cool thing about the Grom unit here is you can use the knob, you can use the steering wheel, you can use everything, to all the native features of your car to control this box, which I think is pretty cool, as well as the touch screen. And eventually the USB port. will be integrated into the Grom as well. So I'll be using all of my factory systems and components with this box, which I think is pretty cool. Next, we're going to do a little demo. So when you first get this up and running, I would recommend that you connect to Wi-Fi, your home Wi-Fi, go in here to system updates and Vline system updates, update the firmware, update the software, get everything all up to date. Anytime I have bugs or notice that this thing is giving me a little lag or it's acting weird, as soon as I go to updates, there's a new update for me to install. So it is pretty cool. Anytime I notice an issue, when I go to click updates, it'll update and solve whatever issue that it was having. So if you're ever having an issue with this, always go and update it, make sure it's all up to date, and then you should be good to go. Now, as you can see here, I'm actually scrolling through the actual Grom box itself. Can go to Google Play Store, connect to different networks. You can turn hotspot on your phone and use this connected to your phone if your phone plan supports such a thing. So these are some of the apps that I have installed on the Grom box. They all work. They all work well. And so as you can see here, I'm actually going to show you that I still have use of all of the factory features: XM radio, AM FM, CD, disc changer, all that good stuff, Bluetooth. Now I don't know why you would use the Bluetooth. You really won't use that button unless you actually use discs or CDs. I mean, unless you use CDs, you won't use that button at all, because you have Bluetooth on the Grom box, so you won't need to use the Bluetooth on your vehicle. Now, this is just to show you how responsive it is. Now, I will say that this is a 2013, or actually made in 2012, vehicle. So this is not a modern touchscreen. It will not handle the same demands that a modern touchscreen will. So that is normal. This was not made to be responsive like an iPad. You got to think about the factory settings that were initially installed on this. But with what I need it for, I want to be able to use Google Maps, have it integrate with my phone. It works perfect for what I need. So as you can see here, I'm actually in Apple CarPlay. These are the apps that I have connected on my phone to be able to sync with Apple CarPlay, Google Maps, Apple Music. Your text messages sync, but with Apple CarPlay you cannot text a response back on the screen there. So you only get audio text messages. Yeah, so it is quite responsive. Works well for exactly what I need. I really appreciate you guys taking the time, checking out my video here. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, leave it down in the comments. Maybe like, maybe subscribe if you really enjoyed it. That way you'll see new content as it comes available. I apologize for the delay on this video. I will be posting some more videos on upgrades that I've used this Grom box to make my car better, to make it smarter, to have all of the settings show in the car box, and I will keep those updates coming to you soon. Stay tuned.